Hi everyone. This week I'm summarizing a recent article presented at the European Congress on Obesity. It focuses on a key health marker called the weight to height ratio in children and how it's linked to early signs of heart and metabolic disease by the time they're just 10 years old. This week's topic felt really personal for me because I grew up dealing with childhood obesity myself. Back then, most conversations around health were just around body weight or BMI, but not really about where the fat was stored or what that might mean in the long term. So when I came across this study, which looked at the waist to height ratio and how it connects to early heart and metabolic disease in kids, I knew I wanted to talk about it. It confirmed a lot about what I came to learn as an adult, and honestly, what I wish doctors had talked to me about when I was younger. So ultimately, what is this research and why does it matter? Well, this research, led by Dr. Horner from the University of Copenhagen, followed around 700 children from birth to age 10. They looked at their waist to height ratios, which is a simple way to measure central obesity or belly fat, and something that's more directly linked to heart disease and diabetes risk more so than weight alone. They ultimately found three main patterns in how belly fat changed over time. The stable group, which was the predominant group and made up the most amount of kids, the group whose belly fat rose, then stabilized, and finally the slow rising group, where the fat steadily increased throughout their childhood. That third group, that slow rising group, ended up with the higher blood pressure, insulin resistance, and more inflammation by the age of 10. There are early signs of cardiometabolic risk that often go unnoticed in these routine checkups that they begin to notice. And so what were the key findings? Well, what stood out to me, both as a former obese kid and someone who's now more informed, is that it wasn't just how the fat developed, but rather how much belly fat the child had by the age of 10 that mattered most. Even after adjusting for lifestyle, puberty, and other factors, the kids with higher weight to height ratios at the age of 10 were more likely to have early signs of poor heart and metabolic health. They also had lower HDL, commonly referred to as the good cholesterol, and higher levels of markers such as CRP and GlycA, which are linked to future heart disease and diabetes. In short, this wasn't just about being overweight. It's about fat distribution and how belly fat, in particular, changes the game when it comes to long-term health. So why did this resonate so much with me? Well, looking back, I didn't realize how much my own belly fat might have been affecting things like blood pressure or insulin levels. And honestly, I don't think my doctors did either. They only looked at the numbers on the scale every time I stepped up for an annual checkup. This study reinforces the need for us as a society to look deeper into things. Tools like the weight to height ratio are easy to use and give a clear picture of who might be at risk. That's a huge step forward for personalized care, especially for kids who might look okay by weight, but might still be at risk underneath the surface. To wrap things up, this study reminds us about how the fat is stored, or the study reminds us that how fat stored ultimately matters more than the amount of weight that a child represents in early childhood. And the belly fat in childhood is a powerful predictor of future health. As someone who struggled with this growing up, I think it's very important that we shift the focus away from just weight and towards early specific risk markers like the weight to height ratio. Weight to height. And it is a small change in how we assess health, but it can make a huge difference in preventing disease later in life. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.